All right, golf fans, welcome back to another episode of Fairways and Dreams. And it is time for a two-man scramble like we do every Tuesday morning. I'm Jeff Hartman, and joining me today is a pretty interesting character, Mark Wyss, or Trick Shot Terry, as you see on your screen if you're watching live. What's up, Mark? How's it going?
What's up? How you doing, Jeff? All is well here in Dubai, nice and sunny. Temperatures are a little bit cold, but for Dubai, but yeah, we're doing okay. Good golf weather, can't complain.
Yeah, there's snow on the ground where I live, Terry, so I don't know if that's really something to talk about, but still, I'm just
Ah, man.
I get it. I get it. Now, there's a reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast. I like the stories that are not told nationally. I like the little small stories. I like having people that have large families like I do on the podcast. And you are someone that I've followed on Instagram for a while. And I want to hear your story though. Before we get into the golf stuff, you used to be a rugby player, am I right? So tell me what got you from rugby to golf.
So it's quite straightforward, actually. When you play rugby, even at the kind of, moderate level that I did, nothing serious really, you tend to start drinking after the game, somewhere around 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and you drink until you can drink no more. So what tends to happen is that your Sunday becomes, you're just a vegetable sitting on the couch, right? And after a while, this gets a bit tiresome. So, two or three of us that played rugby together, essentially, we had hit balls as kids, with our dads once in a while, but we basically got into golf because it allowed us to get out of the house on a Sunday. And even though, it was pretty, I was living in London at the time, even though it was pretty, nasty weather most of the time, you felt better for it, right? You go for a walk for 4 hours and you play a bit of golf. That's basically when the bug started, which was about 2015. And yeah, so the bug started then. However, I didn't own my first clubs until 2015. And, rugby was my sport and golf was something on the side. Then fast forward to 2019 and, the body's creaking a bit. And I find myself living in Dubai, which is a bit of a golfing paradise, I guess. And yeah, it's time to pack up rugby. And that leaves quite a void. Nothing kind of really feels like it can fill that void. So I decided that I just fancied being a scratch golfer. I like the sound of it. It suited my sporting ego. Yeah, I thought that's a good long project. I didn't know how long it would take. I knew it was certainly going to be in the years and not months, obviously. Um, and so yeah, that was the start of it. And that one day I was at Emirates Golf Club just practicing as I do, and the penny dropped. That's what I was going to do.
That's awesome. And so now, before we get into the golf talk specifically, I do have to ask you about fitness. You're a fit guy. Anyone that follows you on Instagram knows that obviously you're a rugby player. Rugby players are typically in great shape. What does your regimen look like now when you're talking about golf? Because a lot of times it requires different types of fitness. It requires different types of exercise workout plans and regimens. What's that look for like for you now?
Well, I have had golf coaches say to me that the kind of fitness that I do, which essentially is the same as I did as a rugby player, is detrimental to the golf swing, right? Limiting
Right.
mobility, things like this. So I have had it frowned upon. I mean, now I do a sort of, I do a sort of 4 day week in the gym, just as just to stay sane and stay in shape and as a lot of us do. And so 4 days in the gym, yeah, that's what I do. And
Has it hindered your game though? Because it has never hindered my game when I lift heavy weights and stuff. And people would always say like, "Oh, it's gonna." But have you followed? Have you seen that the coaches were right, or do you think that that's a bunch of BS?
it's a good question. I really have always played golf whilst being a gym goer, so I don't really know. I can't say that going to the gym has been a new thing. I've always been similar weight and strength to what I am now, although I'm probably a bit stronger now than when I took up golf. So to be honest, if I have good thoracic mobility, then I can rotate and I can turn enough in the golf swing to not really be hindered. And being quite tall, I'm 6'4", 194. I've not been one of these sort of stocky guys. So I've always felt my flexibility's been okay. So there may be one or two people that see this that I don't know, may even see me swing, and there's a guy in Dubai, actually, Russell Hill, who will probably tell me that actually no, he looks at my swing and goes, no, you're not moving right. Whether that's down to having probably more muscle mass or not, I don't know. So the answer, I'm afraid, the long answer or the short answer to that long waffle is that I don't really know. I don't know.
That's okay. That's all right. That's an okay answer. Now, let's talk about golf. So in 2019, like you said, you started this golf journey. You were a 12 handicap. And now in 2022, you achieved your goal of becoming a scratch golfer. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, and this may sound odd and maybe out of left field, but what did you learn about yourself in that process? Because that's not easy. There's people that golf their whole lives and never get to scratch, even if they wanted to. And yet here you are in a 3-year span going from a 12 double-digit handicap down to scratch. What did you learn about yourself? Anything?
Two things, one positive, one negative. I learned that I have a sport related anger management problem. Anyone that has played golf with me, obviously on the bad days, will be testament to that. And I learned that I have a determination and a focus that trumps almost anybody that I play golf with. And they are intertwined, right? Because, people ask me why I snap clubs, and it all comes back to having that goal and that focus, that only a certain standard of shot was acceptable when I was practicing. Otherwise, I would never get to the scratch. Unfortunately, one disappointing thing was that I thought that when I achieved it, I would just become this like happy, sort of buoyant kind of character on the golf course, no matter what, because I'd achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. But once you instill that focus, that determination, that standard across your game, I can't shake it.
How many clubs have you snapped?
In total,
Yeah.
I did actually try and make a list of this, and I just gave up. I mean, how many? I would have to probably guess, probably in the mid-20s, maybe.
Holy, that's so funny to me. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at
No.
you. I mean, I thought I got frustrated on the golf course, and I've never broken a club. But
I
hey,
mean, the one positive thing I can say is that from I think so. I became scratch June 22. I think from July 22 to I know that I was within weeks of making a full year without snapping anything. And I know this because I was playing in the UK, where the ground, and this is my excuse, the ground in July, certainly on not so well maintained courses, is rock hard. And I
yeah.
threw my putter on the floor and it snapped. And I was weeks away from making the full year without snapping a club. So there's one bit of snapping trivia for you. Um, so yeah, and do you know what's amazing is I did one about 4 hours ago, so I'm fresh off a club snap.
There you go. So I'm picturing, like, have you seen Tin Cup, the movie, before with Kevin Costner? I'm assuming.
I actually haven't. No, I know of
Oh,
it,
well,
but I haven't seen it.
there's a scene where he is arguing with his caddy. His caddy thinks he should hit a 3-wood or a 3-iron, and he wants to hit a driver over the trees. And so he just starts taking out the clubs and snapping them all over his knee. So that's one way of doing it. But hey, maybe you're
Oh,
mellowing out.
the only thing I can say, I've never done multiple clubs in one sort of burst. And I have played with one of my friends back home, who has actually taken a club to his bag, the side of his bag, and in anger, obviously. And as we then played the remainder of the hole and the next hole, he realised he'd gone through 3 of the clubs in the bag. So I can lay claim to having seen somebody with a worse temper than me, but that's only one man in the whole time I've ever played golf.
Hey, more power to you. That's great. So let's ask about, so you, that's obviously you looking intrinsically at yourself and what obstacles did you have to overcome. Now the next question is, when you're talking about going from a double digit handicap to a scratch, what was the biggest obstacle in the game? So what was the area of your game that you're like, man, if I can just get this one area if I can tighten it up, this is where I'm going to save the most shots. This is how I'm going to get down to scratch. What was that for you?
Um, Tricky to say. I'd say, and it's still the problem now, probably the driver. I was lucky or unlucky that I blew my knee out to pieces in 2016, 17, which was a year out of not being able to run, not being able to do anything. And for that time, all I would do was chip balls. So come 2018, my short game was on the money.
Yeah.
So it definitely wasn't the short game. I would get up and down from all sorts of spots. But yeah, just the drive, just the driver has always been the problem. Yeah, I'd say it's the driver. I even ditched the driver. I got down to 1.7, I think, in 2021 with a Ping G410 2-iron solely, no driver. Yeah, so I've had the driver has been the issue. Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Now, my next question is: so you got to scratch. Now what? Are you working up the other side of the scale? Are you a plus handicap now, or are you still scratch?
No,
Like,
no, I'm currently 1.3.
okay,
I've spent, where are we now? February. I had a good spell back end of last year in the noughts. I never had a desire to be a +1, +2. I don't know why. I didn't. Yeah, it's never been a desire. I can't tell you why. It just never. I think because I didn't even know what a plus golfer was for a long time. So it was
right.
never sort of there in the distance, whereas everyone knows what a scratch golfer is. So that was always, I knew what that was, and I liked the sound of that. I didn't know what a plus golfer was. So no, yeah, now it's 1.3. To be honest, I'm just trying to get a more aesthetically pleasing swing now, and I just, for me, I have in my head, if I shoot 76 or better, I'm happy. If I shoot 77 to 79, I'm okay. So that's just how I play. That's just how
Okay.
I'm just trying to enjoy it now, because the 3 years, sounds rosy, doesn't it? Oh, nice little 3 year journey. No, it was. I wouldn't recommend it. And really, I mean, yeah. So
Yeah,
now
it's wild.
my goal now is to play nice golf. Nothing doesn't have to be anything flash, anything crazy good, and just try and enjoy it. And I haven't won that battle yet. I still play on the edge.
I don't know if you can ever lose that competitive edge. Like, you talk about it, you had it with rugby. You were obviously a competitor your whole life. I don't know if you ever completely lose that edge. It might dull itself a little bit, but I think you're always going to have that because you are a competitor. And so, unless you're going out there
Yeah.
just for fun and playing in a scramble, you're going to want to play well and you're going to want to score. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you're happy with your game now, right? Though, right now.
Um, it's okay. It's okay. I'm right now. I am trying to certainly build a driver swing that just sounds stupid. Like that get there's positions I want to get into. I don't have enough. You can get really into it. I don't have enough width at the top of the backswing. I have a hip thrust. And these are all things that I learned to game, really. But I just want to get rid of them. So
Yeah.
that's yeah. I don't like admitting to wanting to be aesthetically better as my number one priority, but that really is the truth. Really, I don't have any more performance goals, which some people will be like, well, you know, well, why not? You know, that's why we play, and but like I was so fixated on those things for so long, I just want to enjoy it now, and you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess
That's
that's my
fair.
take on it.
So I have to ask you a couple questions about. I was just going through your Instagram account, and you are a big Phil Mickelson fan. That's correct.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
Phil over Tiger for you?
That is just, I could talk about that all day. On and off the course, yes, 100%. I mean, I've got to admit, and this is going to so unpopular with people. I I I didn't even watch golf when Tiger Woods was in his heyday. I have, because I'm a bit of a sports historian. I have gone back and I've watched, 97 Masters through to most of the stuff in the early 2000s, and I understand. It took me a while to understand how dominant he
Yeah.
really was, because I started watching majors probably in maybe 2015, 16. Danny Willett winning the Masters was kind of one of the first. That's one of my first, and I didn't realize that Tiger was winning majors by what, double digits or in and
Yeah.
around there. So I've done my homework, and I understand. And for me, the whole Tiger Jack thing, for me, it's Tiger all day for me. The way the game's developed and more depth and so and so. But Phil or Tiger, I mean, Phil is just, I'm a devout sports fan, mostly across boxing and UFC, and always have been. And Phil is a top three sportsman in any sport for me, because to be a great sportsman, you have to be at the top of your game or have been at the top of your game. And that's about 60% of what makes a great sportsman to me. The other 40% is, what kind of bloke are you? And I went to live in Jeddah twice, primarily just because I knew that there'd be no one there, and I could probably, don't know, say a few words to Phil, and it was just way beyond my expectations. You know, Phil talked to us, like, because there was no one there.
Yeah.
That guy, I can't speak highly enough of that guy. Absolute legend on and off. And at the end of the day, Phil the Thrill, that name is apt. That's how he plays golf. He's a
No, absolutely.
gunslinger, and
Yeah.
I'm all for that. So Phil all day.
The game. I will say this. We don't need to get into the whole PGA Live stuff. The game of golf misses Phil Mickelson. The PGA Tour misses Phil Mickelson because, like you said, he is a great ambassador for the game, and I know that he's tarnished his name with a lot of people. Not me necessarily, definitely not you, but I will say this: I think that the PGA Tour sorely misses Phil Mickelson being there on a regular basis, and so I'm hoping that eventually they can find some middle ground and get him back there on some of the PGA events that we love to see him and outside of the majors, but we shall see. So I want to finish this up. I don't know if you've listened to any of my other podcasts. I sent you some links, but the 2-man scrambles,
Yeah.
I always do a rapid fire spin at the end where I ask you some
Mhm.
random questions. You answer them as quickly as you want, or if you want to take your time, that's fine too. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
All right. So if you had the opportunity, this is always the first question I ask. You can ride or you can walk. How are you golfing?
What country am I in?
Let's say you're in Dubai. Well, your country area you are right now.
Riding.
Riding? Why is there a difference?
Some of the courses here aren't really meant for walking the way they're laid
Got
out.
it. Okay.
And there's probably only 2 months of the year where it's actually cool enough to walk.
What about in the UK? If you were back in the UK,
I walk.
you'll walk? Okay, fair enough. What about music on the golf course? Do you like it or no?
Oh, good question. I'm still undecided. Music on the golf course. I'm going to say no.
Really? All right. Hey, it's
I,
to each their
I,
own.
primarily because I'm a music snob, and unless I'm controlling the music, I will consider it shit. So if I can make the playlist, I'm down with it. But invariably I can't. I've played with a lot of guys here who just put on, Justin Bieber on repeat, and so therefore I'll side with no.
So let's say you do have the playlist. You are the one choosing the music. What's on your playlist?
Oh, it's going to be mostly sort of probably early 90s English kind of Stone Roses, The Smiths, probably some early Oasis, Blur, a bit of Britpop. And then I tip into American rock, basically. Rage
Okay.
Against the Machine,
Mm,
Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins, Korn, Tool.
that's awesome. Okay, let's go to the next question. What do you think the worst rule in the game of golf?
Worst rule in golf. Quite easily, I think that is the no relief from a divot.
Yeah, in a fairway. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, now you mentioned Ping. What's in the bag? Are you still sporting Ping clubs, or you've transitioned to other brands?
Uh, I I made a video on this. I got suckered into buying a Stealth 2 by what I believe to be a GC quad that must have had some altitude tampering with on the settings. I'm not saying so. I'm out and out Ping. I love Ping. I think I just love everything about Ping, and I play Blueprint irons, and I I've got a G425 crossover, and I've got a G410 hybrid, and I now have a dirty TaylorMade Stealth 2 because the numbers were so good, and I just had to make the switch from the G425. However, after a bit more research and stuff, after I bought it, I came to realize that the very numbers that I bought the Stealth 2 on are somewhat cooked and therefore false. So Ping almost throughout. I've got a Scotty Cameron putter, although it's a bit bent. And Stealth 2 driver.
Fair enough. What's your favorite golf ball to play?
Pro V1X.
That's all right. Now, let's say you're standing, you have a hole that is for a match. Doesn't matter if it's a tournament or not. You either need to bust a huge drive down the fairway. You have to make a decent length putt. Which are you more confident in, the big drive or the big putt?
The drive.
All right. If you had a short play, so we're talking about the short game now, you have a pitch shot, which can be both a bump and run or a flop shot. Which is your preferred method of getting the ball close to the hole?
Hard question without seeing what's in front of me. But
Exactly.
if you're asking me to play like a stock flop shot or a stock bump and run, I'll take the flop shot.
Okay. If you have a miss, is it a slice or a hook?
If I'm speaking of it's a hook. Yeah, it's a hook.
Okay. Do you think this is very appropriate considering what happened this past weekend with Tiger Woods withdrawing from the Genesis Invitational? Do you think Tiger Woods will ever win again on tour? Doesn't have to be a major, just win again.
Hmm. A major, definitely not. Anything on tour? No.
Okay. What would you say is your biggest pet peeve in the game of golf?
Ooh. Oh, I mean, it's a boring one, but it is 100%. Well, and this is tour and amateur.
Sure.
It's just slow play.
Got it.
Actually,
What would you
I'm gonna be more specific actually, because that's a bit of a
Sure.
vanilla answer. I am gonna say, and loads of people are just not gonna go for this at all. If I had it my way, the pin would be glued in the hole, taking the pin out. But I'll say that only for amateurs, right? I'll say that only for amateurs. If the pros feel like they need to take the pin out, fine. But for the amateurs, I mean, effectively that is what causes a lot of slow play. In my whole journey, I honest to God never took the pin out once. If someone left it out, sure, I'd just putt. But taking the pin out, I mean, like I felt like saying to people when I've been in a bad mood, playing bad on a slow round, excuse me, mate, I never took the pin out once in 3 years and I still got to scratch. So you playing off 22, just leave it in, pal. But obviously, you know, that's not the spirit of the game, is it? So I have refrained from doing so.
I get it. I get it. No, and there's a lot of people putting this information out there saying how valuable it is to take the pin out, and they're using like a stint meter and they're just firing golf balls at the pin.
Really?
Well, of course they're
Well,
going to ricochet off the pin.
Bryson said a few years ago that he calculated it was to leave it in.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive. Like literally you're getting topics, you're getting data from both sides. It's a personal preference, but I agree with you. Now, think back to when you were a 12, or think back to anyone that now that you're a scratch golfer, you said you were a 1.3, still a really good golfer. If someone was coming to you and said, "Hey, I'm just starting," what's the best advice that you give to a beginner golfer?
You must at any cost get lessons from the best person available.
Okay. Yeah.
Two,
All right, now
and I would just add a side note to that, and I would say, and I've said this to a few people, because if you don't instill the right habits early, you will forever be working way harder later on to get them right. Because I have that now. Yeah. I still move my head away from the ball as I'm coming into impact. So I have if I'm not concentrating, it's going to come off the toe. So that I would say lessons.
All right. And last question for you. If you have a favorite team format in golf, what is it?
I think it's a bit of a plain one, but it would just be, we play here a lot of just buggy v buggy, better ball match play.
Okay. Hey, that's fun. Everyone has their own format that they like the best. And I do appreciate you taking the time of joining the podcast. I want to give you an opportunity to plug social media handles, obviously your Instagram account, or anything else. Go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just see some semi-comedic, semi-informative, light-hearted videos, the occasional bomb and some praise for Mr. Philip Mickelson, then I am at Shanks to Scratch.
That's awesome. And that's how I found you. So I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Make sure that you check him out. Make sure you check me out this Thursday on another Fairways and Dreams podcast. In the meantime, thanks again for your time. It's been awesome.
You're welcome. Cheers, fella.